Hello, I'm Neil Quigley. Welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas. I'll come on to mine a bit later on, but first let's go back a few weeks. If you remember to the last episode, I had COVID over my birthday. Happily, it never really hit me too hard. I've had all my injections. It seemed to helped me through it relatively easily. However, I was testing positive for quite some time after initially getting it. Therefore, it was about 10 days after I initially got COVID that I finally tested negative again. Enough days for me to feel comfortable to go out and get back and mingle with people and go back to the real world. This did mean I missed 2 weekends worth of events. I missed all the events planned for my birthday weekend. So that was obviously a bit disappointing. And then the following weekend, my girlfriend's family had a big party, big family pre-Christmas get-together down near Poole that I was supposed to be going to. Sadly, couldn't go to that either. So she went down and said hello to everyone for me. I was at home still drinking lots of tea and not feeling too sorry for myself, but just, wanting to get better, to get out and about again. And one of the main reasons I did want to get better by the time I did was we had tickets booked to go to the pantomime at the London Palladium. I have been a few times previously, and it is always fantastic. I missed out last year. I had tickets for it, but I couldn't go because I was ill and my girlfriend had COVID at that point last year, back in 2021. This year, I really, really wanted to go. And I didn't want to miss it because I had COVID and I couldn't go. Luckily, it was fine. I was over it by the time the pantomime came around. It is such a great show. They just throw everything at it. As you'd imagine, the Palladium, an iconic London venue, a big London venue, so they could do all sorts of amazing things with the staging. The cast is pretty set up. It's pretty stable, to be fair. The cast doesn't actually change too much from year to year. It's probably been the main principal cast, I'm going to say, for at least the last 5 or 6 years, and then they have regular extra sort of guests come in, and it's very good. This year was Jack and the Beanstalk. That was the story, in inverted commas. There is a bit of a story in the Palladium pantomime, but mostly it's just an opportunity to give lots of great variety performers the chance to do their thing, to just entertain and do what they do best. It's really, really good. You've got Julian Clary, who, as you could imagine, is perfect for pantomime, for innuendo. I don't think there's anyone better in the country at innuendo than Julian Clary. So he's very good, very, very funny. Dawn French, she was back in it this year. I saw her in it a few years ago. She's just fantastic. So much fun, so clever, so cheeky, so naughty on stage as well. It just works fantastically well. Then you've got Nigel Havers, who does it every year. He's done it for years, absolutely loves it. If you think about his TV career, generally a very serious actor, played quite a lot of serious roles. You can tell he just enjoys being silly, stupid, messing around. It's such good fun. And they do, in a friendly, nice way, they do pick on Nigel a little bit, but I think he secretly likes it. So he was fantastic as ever. And then you've got Gary Wilmot. Now, I remember Gary from when I was a child on various comedy TV shows he did with his singing impressions. Loved him then. Then he went sort of on to forge a career in musical theatre, was in the West End. Late 80s, 90s would have been his main era there. I think he's just a fantastic all-round performer. Always plays the dame, always looks fabulous, obviously, and he has got such a great singing voice. And his kind of set piece every year is he does a song, but it's a list song. So, for example, a few years ago, he did a song that listed every single London Underground station in it, and it was fantastic. The last time previous to this that I went, he did a song that referenced pretty much every single musical that's ever been in the West End with a line from one of the songs in that musical. That was brilliant. This year, and very topical, his song was about illness and being ill, and he listed pretty much every ailment you could ever imagine. It's so slick. The song sounds great. It's really, really good. Always one of my highlights. And then, if that wasn't enough, then you've got Paul Zerdin, the ventriloquist, with his co-star, shall we say, Sam. He has been working around the UK for years, and then he went off to America and actually won America's Got Talent. He is very good, very funny. That's all brilliant. Add to that this year, Alexandra Burke joined the cast. I've seen her in a few things, and she is a great actress as well as having that fantastic voice. So that all worked brilliantly. And then what they tend to do as well, they pick some other West End stars who may not be naming light stars, but they played very big roles generally in the West End. And then Gillian basically at various points just ridicules them for comedy effect. Sounds mean. It's not. It's just fun. It's just panto. It's all good. They're in on the joke. They know what's coming. It's all fine. But it's really good. And I don't want to give any spoilers away in case you're still going to see it. I think it's on for another week or so. But there is one point. Bearing in mind I told you the story is Jack and the Beanstalk. There is a fantastic, ridiculous effect at some point during the performance, which you could probably only do in the Palladium, and it's so good. It's so well done. Anyway, so absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that. It was hilarious. It was naughty. I know pantomimes are supposed to be for children, and technically, I mean, it is a pantomime for children. It does suggest you don't want to take two younger children to this one, and it does basically say under a certain age, it's parental advisory. We're not going Quentin Tarantino. They're seeing how many swear words they can squeeze into it, but it does get not near the knuckle. Some bits of it should generally go over most kids' heads. Most of it is very much aimed at the adults, and it goes down a storm. Had a thoroughly fantastic night at the Palladium seeing this year's pantomime. I enjoyed the show so much. I did tweet a few of the primary cast members, and none other than Dawn French liked my appraisal of the pantomime, and that is good enough for me. If you've never been, I would recommend it. It is good. I mean, obviously, the Palladium pantomime is very expensive. There's lots of great pantomimes up and down the country. Just thinking about how did I get interested in pantomime, because I do love a panto. And I remember the first time I went to a pantomime, I must have been about 4, I reckon. My dad took me to one at the local civic centre. But I remember it definitely had the Smurfs in it, and they did sing at some point ABBA's I Have a Dream. I was only 4, and that stuck in my head. So you can see my love of pantomime has been around for a while. Anyway, it was great. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to going again next year already. We have had Christmas, of course, since we spoke last. I hope you had a great festive period with whatever you did. There has been, need to mention it, so much illness about this year. So many people I know have been ill, either with COVID or the flu. There just seems to be so many bugs going around at the moment. I was in London quite a lot just before Christmas, and it did seem like pretty much everyone in the capital had a cough. It was just everywhere. So hopefully you got through without feeling too rough and unscathed and had a good time. Mine was relatively quiet. I actually stayed in Christmas Eve for the first time in quite a while and just enjoyed listening to some Christmas music and drinking some tea. Not very rock and roll, I know, but it was kind of what I needed, and I did enjoy it. It was perfectly peaceful. That did mean I was up, by my standards of recent years, very early on Christmas Day. Now, I do like to try and connect with people over Christmas. I see it as a time to try and catch up with people, say hi to people who, you know, who you meant to speak to, you meant to try and catch up with, but you never quite got around to it. So I always do send out on Christmas Day a message to pretty much everyone in my phone book to saying, hey, how you doing? Happy Christmas. And this year, a lot of the comments came back that they were surprised with how early I was texting everybody. I mean, I did it more or less as soon as I got up. So I texted them just after 7 o'clock to wish everyone happy Christmas. And they seemed quite surprised I was up and about that early. So drinking tea on Christmas Eve does mean you get more out of your Christmas Day. A top tip for you there. We got a pretty traditional way of doing Christmas in our house. We'll get up, we'll have a fried breakfast, wish each other happy Christmas. Then after breakfast, with a cup of tea in hand, we'll generally go into the lounge and exchange presents, which we did this year. So we did the big present exchange, which was fantastic. That was good, very lucky. Got lots of things that I requested. Little things. I got Ryland's book, for example, some T-shirts and shirts I wanted, some new thermal socks. I've reached that age now where I actually asked for and am delighted to receive socks at Christmas. 10-year-old me never would have said that, but honestly, it's very useful when you get to my age nowadays. So that was great. I'm very happy with what I got. I was happy with what I got everybody else. My sister's got into jigsaws quite recently. I was looking around online and I stumbled across this company who basically, if you send them a picture of whatever you want, they'll turn it into a jigsaw. So I found a nice family photo of me, my sister, my mum, my dad, send that off, and they sent the jigsaw back, which she was very impressed with when she opened it. So that was nice to see. I did organise another personalised gift, but I'll come on to that a bit later. So once the presents were done, then we have to take it in turns to go in the bathroom and get ready. I'd organised, as another family tradition, to go and meet some relatives in one of the local pubs. I remember as a kid during Christmas, on Christmas Day, my parents would always disappear down the pub. They used to go en masse at lunchtime and all come back slightly jollier than they were before they left for dinner. And as soon as I was old enough to go to a pub, I've been doing that myself, always try and catch up with family in the pub on Christmas Day. Obviously, recently, due to worldwide events, there's been a few years where that hasn't happened. Great to catch up with a couple of my uncles, some of my cousins, one of whom now lives in Germany and was just over for Christmas. We're only there very quickly. My auntie, for one group, had organised quite an early lunch, so we're on quite a strict timetable. We had about 45 minutes to meet up, have a drink, have a chat and get back in time for dinner, which I'm delighted to say we achieved. The afternoon was pretty relaxed, came back, just chatted with my parents. I was there with my mum, dad and sister for Christmas Day. Dad was doing the cooking. Then we had a lovely, huge, massive traditional turkey meal, which was fantastic. Then into the living room. Now, normally we'd end up playing some games during Christmas Day afternoon. You know, I said everybody was ill over Christmas. Sadly, my dad wasn't feeling too well. He ended up getting the flu. So we had a bit of a quieter Christmas Day afternoon. Just watched some TV, saw the Strictly Come Dancing Christmas special, which was great. Michael McIntyre's The Wheel, which I enjoyed. That's quite good fun. And a programme I've not actually watched before that I was aware of, Ghosts, which is a comedy, and it was on quite reasonably early, actually, on the BBC. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was really good. So I might have to watch a bit more of that. It looks very, very funny. And then it was quite an early night, to be fair, as it always tends to be on Christmas Day, I find. You get a bit excited, don't you? And, you know, by the time you've opened your presents, the adrenaline from that, and then it gets to the point where you may have had too many glasses of wine by that point, and you tend to start drifting off to sleep in the chair. And at that point, it's kind of time to call it quits, admit defeat, and head up to bed. Boxing Day was fairly similar. I treated myself to a bit of a lie-in, got up, did myself a fry-up. It was the return of the Premier League, so I watched Tottenham on TV as they were away at Brentford, and the highs, the lows, the joys, the disappointments of being a Tottenham fan, all tied up in that one game. After that 90 minutes of football, it was like Premier League football and watching Tottenham had never been away. It really was. I'm back at the ground tomorrow afternoon. We've got Aston Villa at home on New Year's Day. That could be interesting. Now, what my girlfriend and I tend to do, we generally spend Christmas still with our own families. And then it's been handy these last few years because there's been extra bank holidays on the back of the Christmas period, which gives us kind of a bit of extra time. So we try and get away somewhere, either for a night or 2 nights, not too far, just somewhere we can go away together. We'll do our present exchanges there, go out, have a meal, have a mooch around, that sort of thing. This year, we decided to go to Stratford-upon-Avon. I've not been there since, I think I must have been maybe 14, I think. I used to go away with my auntie and uncle and cousin. My auntie and uncle had a caravan, and we went to Stratford-upon-Avon for a long weekend caravanning, and we did everything, as you could imagine, all the Shakespeare stuff, walks along the river. They've even got like a butterfly farm there, which we went to that. So I remember doing all that. And when we went back this time, we kind of walked all past that, and I saw bits of that. We arrived quite early in the day because the hotel we'd booked to stay also had a leisure centre sort of spa attached to it. So we just got some spa access. We both thought, you know, after the indulgences of Christmas, the sometimes stress of being around family at Christmas, we'd hang out in the steam room and the saunas for a bit. So we did that. Then we went for a quick walk into Stratford-upon-Avon just to get our bearings before we could actually check into the hotel. And we worked out where we wanted to go for dinner that night and found a nice little tea shop to have a cup of tea. And there does seem to be lots of little restaurants and cafes and tea and coffee shops all over Stratford, which was nice. Then I was back to the hotel and we checked ourselves in. We booked ourselves quite a nice, well, relatively nice hotel room in that it was a very old style hotel, kind of in the style, I would say, of Tudor Shakespeare sort of time, which I like, one of my favourite periods of history. We actually booked a room that had a four-poster bed, which always makes it seem a bit grander, doesn't it? A bit more romantic? I don't know, maybe romantic's too strong. Let's go with a bit more grand. So we're in the room. At that point, we do the present exchange. I was very happy with what I got my girlfriend. I bought her a couple of experiences, one of which she can do by herself, and one of which, well, it's for two people. I'm hoping she might choose to take me with her, but I've kind of left that up to her. And the other gift I got, I said I found the jigsaw that you could put your own picture on, which I gave my sister. Well, while I was also hunting around online for presents prior to Christmas, I also found a website where you could make your own towels, give them some photos, and they'd make them into a towel. Now, if you remember back to previous episodes, we went on holiday relatively recently to Cape Verde, and I'll admit, I am a swimming trunks wearer when it comes to sunbathing. I kind of like getting as best suntan as I can. Shorts, I don't like long shorts, they're a bit ungainly, so I do wear, only on the sunbed and in the sea, and the pool sometimes, swimming trunks. Think of Tom Daly size swimming trunks, though actually maybe slightly bigger than his, but that kind of thing. Anyway, just for a laugh, we took some photos of me wearing them on the beach when we were in Cape Verde. I found a nice one of those. I managed to blow it up and get it put onto this towel about 4 or 5 times and mark it Linda's towel in big letters. She looked surprised when she opened it, but I think she got the joke and liked it. In fact, she's now planning to use it next time we go on holiday to leave on her sun lounger because she thinks it will definitely keep people away and stop anybody stealing it. And I can't disagree. I was very lucky. She actually bought me a weekend away, a long weekend away in Valencia in Spain, somewhere I've never been, for later this month, which I'm really looking forward to. She obviously did book it for 2. She's not just sending me away for the weekend to give her a bit of peace and quiet. We are both going, so that's something to look forward to later in January. Always good to have things, I think, in the diary and to look forward to earlier in the year as possible. So that's going to be really good. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be great. Once we'd done the presents, we went exploring in the hotel, found a really nice old-fashioned style hotel bar, had a few drinks in there. We'd booked Carluccio's, the restaurant, for dinner. It's another place that is on the celiac accredited list, which means I feel perfectly safe eating there, and there'll be some good gluten-free options. Not been there before, so it was my first time of going there, and it was really nice. The girl who served us was fantastic. We had a great time because it was also, as well as Christmas, a belated birthday night out. When I put in my panna cotta, there was a candle in the panna cotta, and the waitress did sing happy birthday to me. Don't worry, I did give her a nice tip. She was very good, and the food was great. We had a nice time there, and also their wine was quite good as well. Now, we had planned to have maybe a bit of a bigger wander round Stratford-upon-Avon after dinner, because they did seem to have quite a few interesting bars and pubs around the area. It was an awful night, sadly. It was wet, it was windy, so we decided to head back towards the hotel and stop to the pub on the way, mainly because it was on the way, but it was perfectly nice. We had a couple of drinks in there, then headed back to the hotel, and then somehow we decided we needed another drink in the hotel bar, had that, and then, shall we say, faded off to sleep after that. I always think it's quite nice to get away and have a bit of a break after Christmas and sort of reset. So that was great fun, and I do like Stratford-upon-Avon. The next day, we had a bit of time before we came home. We did go for another quick wander around. We saw the birthplace of Shakespeare, the house where he was born, had a little look around the Shakespeare Experience shop as well. There's lots of great things there to buy. One thing I almost bought was there was a book of Shakespeare's greatest insults. Obviously, in his plays, he wrote lots of great insult pieces for other characters to say to other characters. I picked it up. There's some great insults in there. Not insults you hear every day. I came so close to buying it because I thought it'd just be quite fun if people annoyed me to pick a Shakespearean insult to say to them. I mean, they'd probably have no idea what half it means because the use of odd words shakes, particularly, but it would really have amused me. At the end, I didn't buy it, although I kind of slightly regret that. On the way back from Stratford-upon-Avon, a couple of friends of mine have just moved house to the Banbury area. So as we were so close, we thought we'd stop in and see them and the new house on the way, which was great, just what I needed. It was only about 20 minutes from where we were staying, but already at that point, I needed another cup of tea. So that was great. We just spent a few hours with them, having a few cups of tea, getting a tour of the house, having a bit of a chat. So that was all very nice, all very relaxing. Lovely way to end the Christmas period before you have to return home and get ready to go back to work the next day. You kind of know it's over then, before we get the mini New Year break that we're now in. Have you got any big grand plans for New Year's Eve tonight. Linda and I, we're going to see some friends up in Northamptonshire. Just a bit of a house party with a few friends, nice and simple. I say nice and simple, it will get quite loud, I would imagine. There may be a few drinks, I would have thought, and it normally ends up with us playing games. We did it last year. Linda hosted the event at her house last year, and we got playing games quite late on. And there was a game where me and her were playing as a team. And do you know what? That was the first real time I think I saw her get almost a bit annoyed with me, to be fair. She wasn't impressed with the way I was playing this game, and there was quite a bit of frustration. So we'll see how that goes tonight, if there are any more games to be played. Maybe it's best if we try and get on different teams. Who knows? We'll work that out later. Whatever you're up to, have a great time. I spent probably half of the last 30 New Year's Eves working in one way or another. I used to play live as a DJ, so I spent a lot of years DJing on New Year's Eve. And then it got to a point where, because I'd done like 7 or 8 years in a row working New Year's Eve, I had one New Year's Eve off. And your first thought is, brilliant, let's go out, let's party, let's do something big. And as it got closer and closer, do you know what? I thought, what I'd really like to do is just stay in by myself, have a nice, quiet, relaxing night with nobody around, no one to entertain, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So whatever you do at New Year's Eve, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. Just do whatever you want that makes you feel happy. If that's spending time with loads of friends or going out and partying, fantastic. If it's sitting at home, having a cup of tea, being in bed by 10 and waking up and celebrating the new year the next day, it's perfectly fine. Do whatever makes you happy. I think that's the key. I haven't really made any big plans for next year. I probably should. I've never really been one for New Year's resolutions. I kind of think if there's something you don't like in your life where you think there's something you're doing wrong, just change it when you spot it. I don't think you have to wait to the new year to necessarily alter that. So I've never really been into them. I will hopefully make some plans and have some ideas, maybe in the first couple of weeks of January. The football's back, as I said, so that's going to be quite time-consuming being a season ticket holder. So that means I'm at Tottenham Stadium at least twice a month, sometimes more. That's kind of part of the plan for 2023. I guess it's to be safe, have fun, and just hope as a country and as a world we can all be a bit nicer to each other and make things a bit nicer for everyone. It's been a bit tough the last few years and it continues to be so. So it'll be nice if we just, where we can, make each other's lives just a bit nicer and a bit easier just by being a bit more thoughtful and nice to people we meet randomly on the street. Maybe that'd be a good thing. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this week's Blogcast. Thank you for listening as ever. You can, if you wish to, catch my radio show on radio9springs.com Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4. That is it for now. I'll speak to you again in a few weeks. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.